Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Fitness Uncovered podcast. Today we are here to answer your questions. We got a list of questions from my Instagram. Some of them will bring more deeper topics of conversation than previously. So, these are questions by all of you guys that do follow us on Instagram. So for next time that we're doing this, go ahead and give us an IG follow so you can be a part of our podcast as well. You can start.
Yeah, and if you didn't get your question answered, or if you have a question that you didn't get to answer or ask us, definitely tune in for the next one. We'll definitely be doing another one of these. Just make sure to watch out on our Instagram account for a Q&A post.
Beautiful.
All right.
The Fitness Uncovered account.
Yes, the Fitness Uncovered
account.
account.
By the way, we should probably announce that too.
Absolutely.
We just got an account for the actual podcast at Fitness Uncovered on Instagram. It actually, if the uncovered part has, you just put it on the screen right there.
Yeah.
Because they took away the vowels. Anyways, you should give us a follow there as well to stay in tune with everything podcast related.
Yes. Perfect. Let's get into it. Send it.
Question number 1. How can I gain muscle without gaining weight?
That's a good question. It's a good question, and I think a lot of people this is gonna hit a lot of people at home, you know.
All right.
So I think I want to start off with this one. So I think people want both things to happen simultaneously, and it's not that it can't happen, because you could definitely, especially the way that this is worded, you can definitely gain muscle without gaining weight, and often this is actually what happens in the beginning when people are trying to lose weight and they start strength training. Mm-hmm. And this is actually, I could think of several of my clients that are going through this right now, where what we do is we start them off at a maintenance with calories. So when I talk about a maintenance, it's this has a lot to do with nutrition. Depending on how much you're eating, if you're going over your caloric maintenance or if you're under it, so if you're creating a caloric surplus or a caloric deficit, it's going to play a big role in if you're going to gain weight or not. But if you're in maintenance and you're starting to strength train, this is often what happens. You will gain muscle and maybe the scale won't move. So you will recomp. Right, you will recomp. Yeah. So that's what this question is really going into. But I want you guys to.
When I read this question, that's actually not where my mind went. My mind went to the person that wants to gain muscle and they want to look better, but they're scared of the weight on the scale going up because they associate that with a bad thing.
I think that's the way that this question was asked.
Yeah.
I just want, but absolutely.
Which,
I think
by the way, my answer to that would be, forget about the damn weight, dude. Yeah. Like, build your muscle. Like, the weight is only a measurement of the mass of you against gravity.
Absolutely. I think that especially for a person that obviously this person sees the value of building muscle because they're asking this question. So somebody's already, made that imprint with this person. So yeah, what Nick said is absolutely the answer. It's not worrying about the number on the scale, because what if I told you that you could look the way that you wanted to look, but you would not move on the scale? Right. If you looked in the mirror tomorrow and you saw the results that you wanted, but the scale still didn't read the number that you wanted to read, would you be happy? I think that most people would be happy. I think that people are married or have a relationship with the number that they don't quite understand.
Yeah, the thing is that what I've seen is people try to get back to that number when they were at their quote-unquote peak, when they were younger, with like 17, 18, 19, 20, in their early 20s. And so all of a sudden, when you're presenting this to them, that they're going to gain muscle mass, but not gain weight, they're like, wait, because the times that I've gained weight, I don't look any better. Mm-hmm. But it's just, they have to trust the process that, we discuss with them. And eventually, it's just trust. And then eventually when they get to that goal, it's going to be even better.
Weight matters a lot less than you think.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
A lot less.
Absolutely. And what body composition really is, like your weight, you can look vastly different at the same weight. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't mean that it's very hard to fully change your body composition. I think we should answer this way. It's very hard to change your body composition while maintaining weight. If you really want to make significant changes, there are going to have to be some fluctuations over time. That doesn't mean that you're going to have to gain a ton of weight in order to build a ton of muscle. But it does mean that you're going to have to kind of give it a little bit of a trade-off. You're going to have to stop worrying so much about if the scale comes up or not, because maybe the best route for you, especially if it's somebody that is under-eating, like if they're already under-eating, let's say that this person is eating
1,000 calories.
Right, a thousand, even to 1,500.
1,500 per day.
Even if you're eating 1,500 per day, and so what we would call that, I would say that that's pretty low in a caloric intake. If you can't lose weight and you're already eating that low, then I would suggest to increase your caloric intake simply because it's going to be better quality of life as well. So it's going to be easier to cut once we increase that maintenance.
Yep.
And your maintenance can be increased. And a lot of people, I think there's a lot of controversy about this, the whole maintenance thing, like how much muscle, like if you build a pound of muscle, how many more calories? Let's just put it this way. I weigh 160 pounds. I eat over 3,500 calories every single day. And I know that this is just one case, and obviously I have my genetics play into this and everything, but I need to eat over 4,000 calories in order to gain weight.
That's ridiculous.
Now, why does that happen? Right, great. That's awesome. That's awesome. For me, it's not so great because it's a job and I want to gain weight. But the reason that happens is because my composition, I have the ratio of body fat to muscle or to just lean mass in general is very low. So I have very low percentage of body fat. Most of that weight is muscle, is lean body mass. So that's going to, and not just that, but my lifestyle. Not only am I a trainer, so I'm picking up heavy things throughout the day just to help out my clients, but I'm also training regularly. I'm not going to say every day because I don't train every day, but I train very regularly, and I train for strength. I train in a manner that tells my body that it doesn't need to get more efficient at burning calories. It doesn't need to burn less calories. It can be okay with burning a ton of calories for the things that I'm doing. And I also do that by allowing myself to eat. So I'm at a place now that I can have so much freedom with my diet because of the way that I train, because of the way that I eat, and I don't have to worry about what the number on the scale says, because actually I want to weigh about 20 pounds more than what the number on the scale says. But I love how I look, and I love how I feel, and I love how I perform, so that's ultimately like what you should be looking at, and not so much at the number on the scale.
Right. Because even then, that number changes daily.
Right.
So why torture yourself?
Exactly.
Because one day you might drink some more water, another day you drink less, so you weigh less. But the day that you drank more water, you weigh more. Or if you ate later, and you usually weigh yourself pretty early in the morning, you haven't fully digested your food, so it's still in your stomach, and that is counted for when you're weighing yourself, because the scale doesn't really know how to differentiate between muscle mass, water weight, bone. It's just
it's just a number.
It's just a number. It's just a number of all together.
Man, I stopped weighing myself after my powerlifting competitions. As soon as I'm done with prep, I used to weigh myself every day beforehand.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I just look in the mirror and be like, probably decrease my calories a little bit. I could probably increase them a little bit.
Yeah.
But that also comes with a little bit of experience.
Yeah.
Once you have been doing this for a little bit, it's like I can eyeball most things.
Right.
You can even like eyeball food sometimes.
That's what intuitive eating is. So I think we can hit on that, because I think a lot of people like hear that word and it's buzzing around a lot. Intuitive eating, right? But in order to be a good intuitive eater, you have to first develop good intuition when it comes to nutrition. And the way that you do that is by
tracking.
Absolutely tracking.
Yeah.
Because you need to understand quantities, you need to understand macronutrients, you need to understand micronutrients, you need to understand the profiles of what that means and which ones you should be having together, et cetera, and also how they affect you, because every person is different in terms of, like, especially when it comes to nutrition. There's a lot of variables when it comes to individuals. So intuitive eating needs to be developed.
It does not mean that you should eat. You should give in to the urges of what your intuition is telling you to go at 3 a.m. in the drawer to get a cookie. That is not the intuition that we're talking about.
One of my pet peeve that I have of some influencers that I hear, like fitness influencers, speaking about, you just gotta listen to your body. And
how many people do you think are listening to their bodies?
It's like no, I understand what the fitness influencer is talking about. Because once you understand about the profiles of the food that you're eating and the micronutrients and all that stuff, then you know what you need. So they understand, but I don't know, these fitness influencers seem to not understand that they're speaking to people that have never done what they've done when it comes to tracking food and stuff like that. So when they say, just listen to your body. Just listen to your body. Yeah, my body right now is telling me it's an Oreo, so I'm going to listen to my body.
Yeah, but that's why they're influencers. They're not coaches.
Nick, I want to ask you a question because of what you said. How long, before you did what you are doing now, how long did you track for?
I tracked unsuccessfully for 2 years, failing all the time, and then I tracked successfully for 2 years.
Okay, so a total of 4 years
Yeah.
attempting to track your food
Correct.
gave you the confidence to start making decisions without tracking.
Yep.
Yeah. How about you, Jose? I know you still track.
12 years.
Yeah. There you go.
Damn.
There you go.
12
Yeah.
years.
I've been on and off 5 years, maybe
Yeah.
6. But again, the first 3 years were every single day almost neurotic. And also I did a bodybuilding competition, so I got down to like some numbers that really helped me understand what a small difference can make in terms of macro and micronutrient profiles. Because whenever, and I think we're gonna get to some of these questions later, but sodium intake, water intake, all of those things. Maybe when you're having 3,500 calories, like the changes, with sodium and stuff like that, you might not notice them as much. But when you're at 1,200 calories, 1,500 calories, you'll notice those
rough, man.
changes. Yeah,
Yeah.
Man,
absolutely.
you're trying to train at that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cold sweats and stuff.
Jesus.
Before we move on, the way that I want to finish this is by giving this person an answer. The way that you would gain muscle by minimizing weight gain would be to be in a very slight caloric surplus, made up of, I would mostly recommend protein. So that surplus would be,
Would you
adding
say
some protein.
5 to 10%?
Yeah, like 5, 10%. Maybe don't even start with that, but like 5% is a great place to start. However, the
It'll
caveat
be
to that,
slow.
right, is it's going to be slow, right? So it's going to be a slow process where I would probably say, like, if you were to look at the process, that person A, if they take that approach of very, very slight surplus and just over time and sees very little changes on the scale, versus a person that does what we're trying to appeal to and kind of forgets about the scale, lets themselves gain a little bit more weight because they're gaining muscle, and then starts taking away calories and does a cut, and maybe even cycles through these things over the course of a year. And it's not just like 6 months of bulking and 6 months of cutting, maybe like 2 months of bulking and then 2 months of cutting and then again 2 months of bulking and then again 2 months of cutting. I would argue that person would make greater results at the end of the year than the person that takes this.
I think personally it's a worthwhile approach if you're not a competitive bodybuilder to stay near maintenance.
Yeah.
And take the longer route. Just because it's safer, there's less room for error. You don't have a date that you have to be ready for anything. Like, you're chilling, man. Just take your time.
It also builds good habits.
Yep, that's right. And it's something that's going to be more long term for you.
It's easier too, because what we're talking about is like, if you're the person that like, I want to gain results fast, then you're going to have to, maybe track and track, and make these changes where.
Which, segue?
Yeah.
Segue into question number 2.
Yep.
Are there options for those who do not want to track their foods?
Yes.
Hard question. Harder answer, maybe?
No, yes.
It depends on your goals, I
Depends on your
think.
goals, yeah.
I think if it's a person whose goals are not to do what we just said, which is like change your body composition, if you're just like somebody that is eating I want to feel better. Like, I have gut issues and I want to feel better. I'm not getting good sleep. I feel like I don't have a lot of energy. Like, if that's the goal of this person, and I want to eat and I want to get those type of results, which are health results, not necessarily composition results, physical. Then yeah, I could say like you could stick to whole foods.
Yeah, we can give the people a rule of thumb, like when it comes to the foods that they should have in their plate. Every plate should have a source of protein, which is something that you don't see a lot amongst like the people that are not really exercising. They just eat whatever is served to them. So just pasta,
Yeah.
but no protein at all, just carbohydrates. Or for breakfast they'll have like a little cookie with coffee, and
I
then
think-
move on. It's like that. So like we can give, if you can have a protein source, a carbohydrate source, and a fat source in each meal, then you're gonna be doing pretty well. And it has to come from whole foods, nothing that is processed.
Yeah, I think it's funny because I don't know if you guys relate to this, but at least me being from Venezuela, like our breakfasts are all terrible when it comes to distribution of macronutrients.
Yeah.
It's like all carbs, just all carbs and fats.
Dude, I'm not really a breakfast guy. Never been. I haven't had breakfast in years. So I don't really know what Brazilian breakfast is.
Oh, true.
To be honest with you, so I have no
Maybe
idea.
we'll find out.
Well, I don't know about Puerto Rico.
Yeah, Puerto Rico is like coffee with like a cookie. It's called galletas por soda.
Oh.
So they just like wet the cookie on the coffee and they just
Oh,
eat
man.
it, and then they just move on with their
Yeah.
day.
That's very That's very European influence of us. Because if
Yeah.
you see American breakfast is not like that. It's
No,
also carb
no.
filled, but there's also some protein there,
Right.
and a lot of fat.
Yeah.
But that's mostly if you go to like Italy, European coffee shops they're like that. That's what they do in the morning.
Yeah.
They get like it's like the sweet stuff in the morning, like
Yeah.
the brioche and the
Yeah.
croissants.
Yeah.
But other things that we have is Puerto Ricans have a lot of fried food in the morning, especially the ones that work outside. Like they need that fried food because it's cheap and it gives them a high amount of
Energy.
calories
Yeah.
for them to
Quickly.
go work outside, like doing mechanical stuff or just like construction and stuff like
It's
that.
also
So
very satiating.
satiating.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Maybe, although I could argue maybe like it's satiating but you will get cravings and stuff like that. So I mean,
You can
but
see
yeah,
how
lot
cultural
of
these things
fats.
are, man.
Yeah.
It's very cultural, exactly. So that
Absolutely.
when we're trying to teach people how to
No,
Eat
break
it-
away from
eat
that.
a certain way, it's like you're literally taking them away from what they've done for decades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the most difficult things for them to change because it's a habit, the way they've been eating the whole time.
It's not just a habit. It's a culture.
It's a culture, yeah.
Absolutely.
So I guess to answer the question is it depends how serious you want to take this.
Right, because we just answered for the 5%.
Correct.
For 95% of people, I think you do want to change your body composition.
Yes.
So if your goals is not to do what we just said, but your goals is like, I want to gain 5 pounds of muscle, 10 pounds of muscle, or I want to lose, probably people are saying I want to lose 10 pounds or 20
Specifically,
pounds.
if you have a
but
date for it. I think
specifically
it's,
if you
yeah.
wanna have a
Mhm.
date.
If you have a date for it, if you're like, I have to do this by this time, sorry, you truck.
Yeah.
That is and I will say this, and I think I love this. You said this. I love this analogy that you put about the tunnel, and the dark being in the dark tunnel, right? Like you could guess, you could go out there and just
So you're going to see where you are, and you're
Spray
going
and
to
pray.
see the end of the tunnel. But once you start tracking, lights are on.
Lights are
You
on.
see everything. You see
Right.
all the obstacles. You see the thing comes out the floor that you can jump. You see the things that you're going to duck over. And then eventually you're going to get to the end of the tunnel without a scar.
exactly
But if you don't track, you might get a hit or miss there.
right.
You get a broken arm,
Yeah,
hit in the face,
Yep.
abduction,
you might make it.
slap.
You might make it there. Like you might end up at the other side, but like,
Eh.
are you gonna take that risk?
Mhm.
Like, who knows what's in that tunnel?
It's your choice.
You know.
Yeah.
I heard diabetes is in that tunnel.
Yeah.
She crawls around. She comes
Yeah.
and grabs your legs.
Yeah.
puts you down. Beautiful.
Diabetes, obesity, high blood
Everything,
pressure,
all
right?
that stuff, all that stuff. It's
Eating
lurking in there.
disorders.
Yeah.
It's lurking in there.
Moving on away from
Yeah.
nutrition, yeah?
Yeah.
How to train. Oh, question number 3. What is the difference between training as a power lifter and as a, can I call it regular athlete?
Yeah. We could say what like the specific question, because some of these questions we're kind of rewording just so it can be more general.
Yeah. Specifically, the question was asked by a football player, and he was asking about specifically for football, but we just included all athletes. And this is something great because Andres Spina, the creator of the FRS method that we use for most of our clients or most of our training, just posted a video about that very recently, in which he went about how people confused skill training and strength training, specifically when it comes to power athletes, which are Olympic lifters and power lifters. People confuse how those two things are not the same, that they are the same when in fact they're not.
Mhm.
And for us coaches, that's very important because if you think of a football team, I talked about this on my story on Instagram the other day. A football team, they have a technique coach, which is the head coach. So that guy has the job of creating the best strategy for the team to win the football game. They also have their strength coach, which the job is to prepare the athletes' bodies to best perform on game day or throughout the season. In powerlifting, it's kind of like people think that they're kind of both meshed together because the sport uses the mechanics, the movements that are usually used to build the strength for other sports, which are the squat, the bench, and the deadlift. So people think that those are kind of like the same thing, but they're really not. And we actually have a lot of people powerlifters come to us, thinking that we're going to teach them specifically powerlifting. But that's not the case. We're just good at preparing bodies to powerlift, that's a huge difference. We do the second job of what the football team will do. That's the strength coach job. And that's, I think, that's the biggest difference between, I think, at least me personally, how I would coach a powerlifter to an athlete. A powerlifter, because of the state of the industry, I would have a lot more responsibility in teaching them the skills of powerlifting as well as preparing their body for powerlifting. As opposed to an athlete, I would just try to prepare their body as best as I can so they can perform their skill of their sport better, which may be like throwing the ball, swinging the bat, swinging the racket, doesn't matter.
Yeah. A lot of rotation.
So
A lot of
basically,
rotation.
so basically saying that powerlifting already has a combination of when you train powerlifting, you're already doing your practice.
Correct. Yes.
So it's not like football that in football you have to go throw the football, catch it, run and stuff like that.
Hit people.
And hit people, and then you gotta go to the gym and work out. And so in powerlifting you have both the technique and the training simultaneously.
Yep.
I think we should like just qualify a little bit for this question, because I think this is actually a great question for who we are, because
Yes.
both Nick and Jose have a ton of powerlifting clients, and I myself have had a lot of athletic, meaning like powerlifters are also athletes, but when people think of like athleticism, they think of like these type of sports like football, soccer,
Unfortunately,
running.
because of the state
right,
of the industry, I would agree
right,
with you.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think this is a good contrast to like what I think I want you to finish your thought process with the powerlifter, because I want to go into like why would you train an athlete the way that you would train an athlete versus what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the main goal for sorry, did you want to?
No.
The main goal for the athlete would be just to make sure that his body is in the best condition to perform the skills required in his sport.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that may mean max strength, but it also may not.
Right.
Like, it doesn't
Right.
have
It depends
to
on
be.
a
And
lot
it
of
also
things.
doesn't have to, you don't have to apply max strength through your regular gym movements, as in the squat, bench, deadlift, overhead press,
Yeah.
pull up, row.
Yeah.
Like, there are so many ways of applying max strength. And
Yeah.
There comes a time where, you see a lot of, let's say football players, they're trying to increase the max strength of their squat. And so although it does help for you to become stronger using a squat to strengthen your legs, like a football player doesn't really benefit from having a 1,000-pound squat, because it's actually going to slow down the football player.
Mhm.
Because to lift a 1,000-pound squat, you have to produce force for a long period of time, like when you're trying to grind through that rep. And the football player, has to be faster. And so the strength curve is different for a powerlifting sport as opposed to like another sport like a football player.
should we include a graph of the strength curve real quick on the screen right now?
That would be good.
Yeah. He'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So the max effort strength is at the top. That's where you grind against big weight. That's what powerlifters do. That's why you do the training that powerlifters do, which is max effort work. Football players, they don't have that much resistance. There's no 1,000-pound player that they have to push through. Like the players are max like 300 pounds, and they're still moving pretty quick on the field.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the area of the strength curve that they're operating in is lower. It's right here in the middle near is it speed strength or strength speed?
Speed strength.
Speed strength, which is more dynamic. After
Strength
work.
speed is the grinding,
Mhm.
Right.
max out.
Yeah.
And speed strength is the
power.
fast.
The fast. Yeah,
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah,
The
speed
strength is the
the
fast.
power area of
Yeah.
the strength curve,
Mhm.
which is where I think and I suggest and I program for most of the football players or any other athlete for a sport that's similar to that, where they should spend most of their time and energy is in the power stage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Obviously, as well as working
Yeah.
their joints, the connective tissue, the structures.
I want to take it into one thing that I think I love talking about this, because it also, like, you got to look at like what these people are doing. Like a power lifter, like Nick was saying, like what you really want to do is you want to create a better working system so that the outcome of whatever you choose to do is going to be better. So it's very similar. I think like it's not the same, but it's very similar. The thought process that you're going through whenever you're training a person is very similar, because what you want to do is you want to, as Nick said, give that person more tools to go to the field or the platform, in case of a power lifter, to perform better, right? So one big difference that I would see here in terms of like how much value I would put to a certain style of training is unilateral training here. Like athletes outside of powerlifting, unless you're a goalie or unless you're like a hockey goalie, like you're not in a bilateral stance, meaning like you're not in a square deadlift or squat stance. 99% of the time you're going to be balancing on one foot or a staggered stance or some type of asymmetrical stance. So you definitely want to make sure that you're ready to withstand forces in as many variations of those stances as you possibly can, and not just in a same plane of motion. So there are 3 planes of motion. You have your frontal plane of motion, transverse plane of motion, and sagittal plane of motion. Most of the exercises that you're doing in the gym are in the sagittal plane of motion, which means it's going front to back. So your bicep curl is going front to back. When you're squatting, your knees are moving forward and back. Your hips are moving forward and back. Then you have your frontal plane, which is lateral movement, and you have your transverse plane, which is rotational movement. Most movements on the field happen in the transverse and frontal plane, and not necessarily in the sagittal plane.
Same with a court or sand, by
Right.
the way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So I would put a lot more value into those things if I'm training a sports athlete versus if I'm training like a power lifter or a strongman or, you know, somebody that is not going to be needing all of these skills as much, because I'm not going to spend a bunch of time doing those things with a power lifter as I would with somebody else.
I'll tell you what's not a difference, though. The athletes should not be Olympic lifting, specifically. Yeah,
Unless you're an Olympic lifter.
unless you're an Olympic lifter.
Unless you're an Olympic
Yeah,
lifter.
the power cleans for football players are not as great as a lot of
There's
strength.
Yeah,
so many better
there's
tools.
So many, yeah, exactly. Because the Olympic lifts, people don't receive the respect that they deserve. Like, there's such technical movements.
Well, I think it's the hardest sport in
And
the world.
Olympic lifts don't make you more explosive. What Olympic lifts do is they show people how explosive you are.
Mhm.
Okay, it's a display
Mhm.
of explosive strength. It's not a explosive strength developer. And
Do
so,
you want to explain how the Olympic lifters build that explosiveness?
yeah, they do that through doing jump squats, or they do like you could say unilateral. Can be jumping lunges. It could be
Bounds,
it could be
hops.
bounds, hops, plyometric training. Move the bar with a lighter weight and move it as fast as possible. They also do a lot of speed strength, which is a lot of 1 to 3 rep maxes to build more strength, so they can handle more weight.
Dynamic
And
effort.
then they have their practice, which is
The display.
the actual
The
sport,
display, which is the skill.
the skill.
That's the skill.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's
I once read this book. It's called Scientific Principles of Strength Training, and the
Is that for
author.
CSCS?
Huh?
Is that the one for the CSCS?
No, this one is from Juggernaut Training Systems. Chad
yeah.
Wesley Smith, and his team. And it was kind of funny when I read this sentence. He was like, powerlifting shouldn't be called powerlifting. Powerlifting should actually be called force lifting,
I agree.
because power implies that you're moving something as fast as possible. And in powerlifting, you're not moving the bar as fast as possible.
No.
You're just finishing the lift.
If
Doesn't
anything-
matter if it takes 10 seconds or 1 second. Most of the time, if you're grinding out a 1 rep max, you're not finishing in 1 second. You're finishing in a good 4 to 7 seconds to finish the whole lift. Maybe 10 seconds if you're a really, really good grinder.
Some of those shaky
Yeah.
deadlifts.
So that's force right there. You're applying force for a long period of time. And then he said that weightlifting should be called powerlifting.
Yeah.
Yep, you can even switch them up, be like powerlifting should be called weightlifting. If you can, at least
Exactly,
You're,
yeah.
lifting some
Yeah,
weight.
they should,
It would
yeah.
make more sense.
Yeah, it would make more sense.
It would make more
Yeah.
sense. Absolutely.
But we don't make the rules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that
Yeah,
one of the reasons why that became a thing, which is where everybody was using Olympic lifts to train athletes, is because if you had never trained something like that and you started training something like that, I could see maybe some athletes getting some benefits from it. But then people are we see those benefits and we don't ask why we're getting those benefits. And it's because we've not trained that style of training before. We're missing out on something. So maybe we see some benefits, but there's way better things that you could be doing, which is what Olympic lifters do.
Yeah.
To get more explosive.
So I actually think I have an answer for that. Most of the studies that we have for to train athletes that we got from the foundations of training science came from Russia, from the Soviet Union back in the Olympic days.
Thank you,
And
Russia.
Yes, thank you, Soviets. Amazing work with your athletes. And basically, they use the Olympic lifts a lot for their Olympic lifters, not for all their athletes. But basically, the Americans kind of got all those studies and they do Olympic lifting for everything, so we're gonna do Olympic lifting for everything. So
Yeah.
everybody's gonna do Olympic lifts.
Yeah. It's such a high risk movement to do, especially for a football player who needs their hands. Like, you need your hands
Bro,
a
they
lot when you
grab
play
shit.
football, grabbing, catching, throwing. If you do a bad rep on an Olympic lift, let's say a clean, and you catch that bar too low with your wrist all extended with a lot of load, you could break your wrist, or you can strain your wrist. And so you're actually messing up your main asset to play in your sport. So try to use another tool to build explosiveness. Maybe do some medicine ball throws over your head, or broad jumps, or a weighted squat with jumps or something like that to build that kind of explosiveness that is safer to do rather than trying to throw a bar over your head or clean it to your clavicle.
Yeah, one of three of my favorite things to do for speed and power training are fast sled work, like you said, medicine ball training, and sprinting. Like actual just fast movements, or not just sprinting, but like body weight fast movements. So jumps, hops, bounds in all of the planes of motion that I mentioned earlier. And yes, sprinting.
Yep. Good stuff. Question number 4. Again, changing topics. Do you need to change the way you work out as you age past 40? That question is creeping up on both of you more than it is on me. So you guys can start answering that because you guys are going to hit that wall before I am. I'm chilling.
Thanks,
I got
man.
19 years to go.
Should I go first since I'm the oldest one?
Senior.
It's coming, man.
Yeah. Definitely when you're younger, you can get away with, being dumb with your training because your ligaments and tendons, muscles are just young. They still can recover faster. And so I remember my days when I started working out, I was doing arms every single day. And I did not get injured. It worked out fine.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Gym bro.
And my chest and but
Drinking your C4.
definitely as you get older, since you have more wear and tear as you go, just overall with your life, you have to train smarter. What I'm trying to say is that I'm still going to be squatting. If I enjoy squatting, deadlifting, and bench pressing, overhead pressing, pull-ups, I enjoy doing those things. That's why I do them. They're not the only exercises that exist. If you don't like doing them, there's other options for you. Me personally, I could continue to do that. I just have to continue to prepare my body to do so. Okay, so I always take care of my joints. I always take care of my ligaments and tendons, and we do that with the system that we learned from Dr. Spina, the functional range systems, and that's allowed me to continue to do these things that I enjoy at 31 years of age. I have friends that are 31 years of age that cannot do these things anymore because they did not take care of their body. So can you continue to train the same? Yes. You just have to continue to prepare your body to do those tasks that you're asking it to do.
Oh yeah, man. There's the whole master's division class in powerlifting, which is over 40, right?
Yeah.
And they get some pretty strong people there. Lake Norton just got first place in worlds, and he's over 40, definitely.
He's over 40.
Yeah, for the master's
Not
division. So
50.
you can definitely do whatever you want, man. It's just how much work are you willing to put in to do those things at that age? That's the question you should be asking, I think.
Yeah. I'm gonna approach this a different way. Not that I disagree at all, because that was all.
You can
perfect.
disagree.
Please disagree, Andres. By the way, guys, we're looking for something to disagree on. So if you guys wanna throw some questions at us, topics,
Drift us apart.
Yeah.
Make us not be friends anymore somehow, please.
Yeah, we got to do like the whole breakup band and get back together thing.
Like the Beatles.
So what I've noticed, I'm only 28, but what I've noticed in at least like in the past 10 years of my training is not necessarily that like I feel like I need to train different, but my goals change. So I think that there's a lot of that as people age, that like you're going to want to do different things. There are going to be different things that are going to be at the top of your list in terms of values to you, because that's just how life works. You're not always wanting to do the same things. You're not always wanting to reach the same goals, hit the same PRs. It used to matter a lot to me, like I was alluding to earlier, how much I weighed and how big I was, how much I still would love to, win the Olympia. But now I care a little bit more about the abilities that I have, like how well I can move. Talking about plyometrics, I love. This is another thing. Like once I started training, like athletic training. When I talk about athletic training, I mean plyometrics, speed, power. What we were just talking about.
Rotational movements.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
I like training that way. It makes me feel good. It makes me feel like I have a 4-year-old, so it makes me feel like I can do anything that I want to do with my 4-year-old. And again, like I know I'm only 28, but I know a lot of my friends that have back pain, knee pain, things that they'd be like, oh, going to play a baseball game. Like, I don't know about that, man. So like I feel great. I feel like I can do all of those things. I feel like like maybe he has a lot more energy than I do. But yeah, I think that the goals change as you age, and your training is going to have to change according to those goals as well, apart from the physical stuff that is going to happen. But yes, Jose is absolutely right. I think that as you start aging, there are other things that are going to come up that you're just going to have to start taking care of. Like he said, tendons and ligaments when you're younger, maybe you don't need to do a lot of training to keep those up to par with everything else as you're younger. But that could also be because you're not, like, if your training age is a lot and you get super strong, then you better start training other things as well, because then you're just going to be training the same ways over and over and over again. So it's not just about your age, it's about how long have you been doing the same type of training for.
Oh yeah, man. I was 18. I had been training since I was 15. That's 5 years. That's when I hit my wall for joint pain.
Yeah.
At
You said
18
15
years
to
old.
18?
Or
So 3 years?
13 to 18.
13, yeah. So
Yeah,
5
at
years.
18, that's when I was like, okay, something's wrong here.
Yeah.
Let me address this
Yeah.
right now. And
Yeah.
at 18 years old, you probably shouldn't be feeling those things.
Yeah.
You know?
So there's a lot of different things that are going into this question. It's not just your age, but it's like, what have you been doing or not doing during that time? You know, how long have you been doing what you've been doing for or not doing that? And your goals. Like, ultimately, it's a mix of all of these things. So to answer the question, I think, like, a short answer is yes, you will have to change your training style as you develop your training career, but it has a lot more to do with just your age. Because, like Jose said, you could train the same. And if you're training all of those things right now, all the things I mentioned, if you have your mobility on check, if you have your performance on check, if you have your strength on check, if you have well-rounded training today as a 20-year-old, you may not need to change that as you age.
The answer is always train what you're worse at.
Exactly.
If something else becomes worse because of your age, then you're going to have to train that more.
Always make
That's
sure
the
all the
answer.
boxes are checked.
Correct.
Yep. There you go.
Yeah.
Cool. Question number 5. How badly... Is that the one? Yeah. How badly will it affect me if I don't eat enough protein for a few days? And we were actually talking about this before the podcast started. Because what's the definition of a few days for
Yeah,
you? What's the
that's-
definition of a few
that's
days for me?
important.
Because a few days can mean 3 days, or a few days can mean 90 days.
I mean, if it's 2 days, like, there's people that fast for 2 days, and
They're fine.
that could be beneficial.
Yeah.
And if you're fasting, you're not eating protein. But I probably think that that's not what this person
Yeah.
means.
So
How long can I go without things going bad? I
Right.
think that's what
Yeah.
they're
Exactly.
trying to ask.
So the person that asked this question, they go to school, they go to medical school, and so they're very busy with their schedule,
Yeah.
especially with their studying, and so sometimes they don't have enough time to finish, their macros or whatever, and eating enough protein, and at the same time they're training, and so they train at a high level.
Oh,
Yeah,
you know.
you probably know who it
Yeah,
is. Yeah,
yeah.
they train at high. Yeah, she's a power lifter. She trains at a high level, but sometimes she doesn't have enough time to eat. And
Right.
so the times that has happened to her, I'm like, don't worry, don't stress out about it. Maybe your recovery is going to slow down a little bit, but if it does slow down when you step into the gym, if you have to lower the weight, then lower the weight and forget about it. Next week when you have more time, get back into your schedule. Always try to get back into it. Don't give up.
Overcorrecting.
Yeah, overcorrect it. Don't be like, oh, I missed one day. Oh, I'm done. It's over. Like,
Yeah, now I
no.
have to eat twice as
Now
much
to eat
protein
steak,
tomorrow.
Yeah. Just next day, try to do better. And when you have the time to do it perfectly, then do it perfectly. But just continue to train, continue to be consistent, and you'll be fine. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I like that answer. I think it largely depends on, like, for everybody at home that isn't this person, it largely depends on, like this question is worded, how badly will it affect me if I don't eat enough protein? How much are you under eating of protein? So, like, if you're supposed to be eating 120 grams of protein a day and you're getting 60 consistently, again, how much is a few days? Like,
How
there's
much
going to
for
be
how
some,
long? How
and for
bad
how
is the
long.
deficit?
Right. So there's
Yeah.
a lot of different things. So if that's the case where you missed it by, let's say, 20, 30 grams, and, like, you did a couple days of that, like, just get back on track.
Yep.
Get back on track. Keep training. Like we said, always trust
It's
the
also
process.
at that point that's going to shave off, like 2% of your performance. It's
Yeah.
like if the majority of the boxes are checked, like you'll be fine.
mhm.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Yep.
Cool. Question number 6. Can you talk about the benefits of kettlebell training versus dumbbell training? And I personally think this is a harder one to answer because weight is weight, movement's movement. Where the weight is shifting you to is kind of like up to you and
Yeah.
up to your coach.
They both have their benefits, and they both should be used. Like
Mhm.
Yeah.
one is not better than the other. They both provide benefits that the other one doesn't.
I'll answer it the way that I program the two different ones and why I would choose one over the other. So I think for people, whenever they're learning a new movement, kettlebell training can be really useful because it makes you a little bit, especially like a press. And the way that I coach a press, I think allows people to understand irradiation, which is a topic that we talk about a lot in the FRS system, which is just having more tension throughout your entire body. And the way that I teach a press when you use a kettlebell is to pull this is going to be hard for people that are only listening through audio, but to pull the kettlebell into the forearm to make sure that your knuckles are pointing in the direction that you're pressing. Because a lot of people kind of break their wrist when they're using kettlebell and they kind of just press like that. So
Guilty.
So that movement of pulling that kettlebell in is going to A, increase your grip strength, B, increase your wrist and elbow stability as well as shoulder, and is also going to make you more aware of your movement as you're performing it, because now you have to pay more attention to everything that's going on. So I love that aspect of just that one of like changing a press from a dumbbell to a kettlebell. You get those benefits. I think that kettlebells are really useful for plyometric training as well. So kettlebell swings, things like that. For an athlete, like if you really want to clean and if you really want to snatch, I would say that a kettlebell clean and a kettlebell snatch would be a way safer option than a barbell clean or a barbell snatch. And those are still not the ones that I would necessarily use. But if you really want to do those, then that's another benefit right there. Stability training, suitcase carries, things like that. I like it because the weight is a little bit lower on the center of gravity. So the weight distribution feels a little bit different. For the kettlebell. Yes, for the kettlebell. It feels a little bit different, and it can just also be a new training stimulus.
You know, one of my new favorite exercises that I'm doing now, I mean, it's not a new exercise, but it's the dumbbell row. I don't like it so much anymore because the bigger the dumbbell becomes, because I'm rowing so much weight, the bigger the dumbbell becomes, the more comfortable it is to row it, because as you're pulling the dumbbell towards your belly button, or like let's say your hips, it's just like hits your hips. And so I switched it up.
Gives you an owie?
Yeah, it's just like I can't hit my lats, I can't hit my lats like I would. So I switched to kettlebell. And so since the kettlebell is just like a big circle,
and it's
underneath my hand, when I do the row, I actually feel my lats contracting better. I can focus more.
Man,
and skull crushers too. Like
I was about to say,
with dumbbells, when you do skull crushers, you gotta do it in neutral grip. You can't pronate your grip. And so with the kettlebells, you can actually pronate your grip. So it just give you a different option.
I was about to say, switch your skull crushers for a week from easy bar or from the dumbbells to kettlebell, and tell me you're not trying to stabilize more, man. The first time I did them, I was like shaking. I was like, what the heck is this? It's just a tool.
It's a tool.
It's a tool.
Yeah.
You have to, and that's the job of the coach. That's why we study for this. You have to learn how to use the tool, like
tool belt.
apply it properly.
Yeah. Another way that I love to use kettlebells is upside down kettlebell exercises. So instead of what I was describing earlier, which is the regular way to hold the kettlebell, have the actual bell be upside down, so the horns of the kettlebell are what you're holding onto, and the bell is actually on top of that. So it requires a lot more stability, it requires a lot more coordination, and you're probably gonna be a quarter of
the weight
that you could actually lift for a regular press. So I love doing those things for like shoulder stability, even just like carries, walking. So carrying the kettlebell upside down and walking, whether it's overhead, whether it's in a front rack position, whether it's in a 90-degree angle, shoulder flexion position, all great. Again, awareness, body movement awareness, all of those things, awareness of where your joints are at, of where your weight distribution is at, things like that. Great tool. I think it's a great tool.
Yeah. Cool. Moving on to question number 7. Should non-athletes do plyometric training, and why?
Yes.
Aren't you the big fan of the plyometric training?
Yes. I love plyometric training.
Go ahead, Mr. Athlete.
Having said that, I think that most people initiate plyometric training incorrectly. I think that people just have these exercises that they see people doing when they think of plyometric training, which are usually like box jumps, the Olympic lifts that we were talking about, all these things that I would say are at the very end of the spectrum when it comes to progression in plyometric training. The way that I actually start people doing plyometric training is pogo hops. So, and supported pogo hops. So it might even be like weight assisted. So you're holding onto a band that's attached above you, and you're literally just doing like slapping the floor, very little jumps just to get that Achilles tendon to start responding to some speed training and having loads under speed and responding to loads, changing directions, things like that. So just, and by the way, let's first define plyometric training. Plyometric training to
Should've
me,
done that at the beginning.
yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I wish we could edit this, but plyometric training to me, at least, this is my definition of plyometric training, is a movement that is faster than the way that you currently train. A movement that's faster, like, because it depends on what you're doing, that what I could consider a plyometric. Because I could consider, for somebody that's what's that? What are those things called when you have like the obstacle courses? You know, the Ninja Warrior thing. You know
Spartan
what I'm talking
race?
about? No, it's not Spartan race. It's like the people that like jump from place to place. Like it's not parkour, but it's American Ninja Warrior is the thing that it is.
What
But
the
it's
heck?
they do these. It's literally people that are like jumping from or like it's
Spider-Man?
It's
Peter
obstacles.
Parker?
Literally Spider-Man. Literally Spider-Man. They would not get the same benefits from that pogo jump that like somebody that's never done that. So it just depends. Plyometric training is speed training. It's really just like training speed. A lot of people will put it under like you have to leave the ground, so it's like a little bit of a jump. But I think that's a little bit overcomplicating, and I think it's just speed training because you could do plyometric training without leaving the floor, in my opinion. So yeah, I think athletes should definitely be doing plyometric training. I want to hear a little bit more from you guys before I make my next point on that, though.
No, I think you hit a lot of the points. Definitely, like you said, a lot of people go into plyometric too soon without their bodies being prepared to do so, just because of the popularity of the exercises. And so it looks cool, and you know, the person that is probably doing it looks very athletic, and you're like, oh, if he's doing it, then and he looks like that, I should do it too. But you explained it perfectly when it comes to slowly progressing people into it. You know, even especially when the person is much older. You know, when the kids, when you're a kid and you're young, you do plyometric training all the time. Something simple as running is plyometric. And so when you're playing like hide and seek, or you're just playing a sport, and you're playing basketball, you're playing football, you're doing plyometric movements all the time. But when you become older, as you become more sedentary, that's when your tendons and ligaments start kind of like degrading. And so that's what Andres was explaining. Like, if a person hasn't done plyometric training in a long time or ever, start them up with something more supported, like pogo jumps, you know, maybe jumping rope, or just jumping without a rope, you know, up and down with their toes and stuff like that. So, or doing a fast movement, because, you know, throwing the medicine ball can also be plyometric.
Absolutely.
So,
And you're not leaving the ground. Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
Yeah. But the reason why a person that is a non-athlete should do plyometric training is due to developing or keeping the fast twitch muscle fibers, which they slowly continue to degrade if you don't use them. And so for improvement of overall life, like quality of life, the more plyometric you can be, the faster you can be, the more fast twitch muscle fibers you can have, then the easier your life will be, you know, getting off the chair, or
those are the ones that go away.
Yeah, those are the ones that go away.
That's why old people move slow, not because they're just old. It's just because their muscle fibers degrade.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So as you get older, you should continue to maintain fast movements so that you can have a good quality of life, and just continue to walk, move, run, and get off the chair and do daily tasks.
Yeah.
That was actually one of my biggest pet peeves with most group fitness classes, is because they just throw people to the lions in plyometric training.
Yeah.
Most people that are older than like 25 and they haven't moved in a long time are not ready for it, specifically if they're overweight. And the trainers, they have to be really good trainers to know how to regress those movements into
On the spot.
easier. Yeah, on the spot, under a time crunch, with your boss looking at you, telling you to do this now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I relate to that so much.
And specifically, even worse, even worse with CrossFit classes, because you're putting them to do all those things together while with a bar over your head in a snatch position.
Yeah.
And which again, we touched on the Olympic lifts earlier.
Yeah.
So combine all those things together and you have a rest before disaster.
Yeah. Yeah. I think another really big reason why a non-athlete should do this is something that we touched on in our earlier podcast, or previous podcast, with Dr. John Russin, which is injury. So usually injury happens when you're absorbing force, usually. So like if you fall off, if you're, let's say, on the bed of your truck, you jump off the bed of your truck because you're moving. I don't know what you're doing. For some reason, you're on the bed of your truck and you jumped off. And you injure your knee or your ankle or whatever. That's due to the inability of your body to absorb that force efficiently as you are landing on the floor again. Mm-hmm. That is a plyometric movement. That is the ability of force production and then force absorption are all aspects of plyometric training, especially under speed. And when you fall from the bed of your truck or jump off the bed of your truck, you can't control the speed at which you're going to fall. Gravity's ultimately going to control that.
The reason for that is also because that's an eccentric contraction. You're taking you're absorbing force out of the ether, out of your body, like, and your eccentric contractions are your strongest. So if your eccentric contraction can handle the pressure or the intensity or the weight of whatever you were trying to stop, nothing else is going to be able to handle. That's like the last little bit of like force that you can produce or absorb.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, another reason would be to mitigate injuries or to, in this case, yeah, you could prevent certain injuries from happening if you're training plyometrics because you won't get injured because you're training plyometrics. So if you jump off the bed of your truck and you're training depth jumps whenever you're going to the gym, which is literally jumping off of the bed of your truck, like it's instead of jumping up to the box, what a depth jump is you stand on the box and you jump off and you absorb the force with intention. So if you're training that and then you go and you jump off the bed of your truck, you're way more prepared for that situation, even if it's a fall. Mm-hmm. Even if you didn't mean to jump off, your tissues are way more prepared to handle that. So therefore, either the injury won't happen, or even if it does happen, the damage won't be as great and the recovery will be way easier.
So what would be a situation that someone would be jumping off the?
You're moving, you have all your boxes on the bed of your truck, you're going fishing, all the fishing poles are all the way in the back. You got that last little piece of bait that you left all the way there. You got to get up on top, and you got to jump off. You're washing your truck. There you go. All those things.
I think he's done this before.
Yeah. He's speaking from
and I don't even have a truck.
Beautiful. Oh, dude, I like the next one. Question number 8. This one's very simple, very cool one. Is red meat bad for you?
No.
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 Next question.
But I think we should. Yeah, let's actually just leave it like that. Let's just move on. I think the biggest reason why people think that red meat is bad for you is because, obviously, you could definitely look up right now on Google, is red meat bad for you? And find articles that are going to tell you both.
Millions
things.
of articles.
Millions.
You can find an article for anything in this world.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially when it comes to nutrition, because unfortunately, it is very difficult to A, fund nutrition research, and B, if it does get funded, the way that it is executed is usually observational or survey, which means that they are taking a group of people and asking them questions about how they are eating over time. So they're not even observing these habits being, happening in front of them. They're just, okay, we're going to meet in 2 months, and you're going to tell me, have you been eating meat? And usually this is not categorized into like organic or what kind of meat. Is it a burger? Is it, is it just processed meat?
Grass-fed or
right? Is it grass-fed? Is it, what source is it coming from? It's never really categorized in that way because funding, again. But so the research is not excluding all variables from this. So when you get, in my opinion, when you get a research article that is saying Americans that eat meat are at way higher risk for heart disease or high blood pressure or whatever these all of these things you can find if you make a Google search. It's because of the type of meat that they're consuming and not necessarily meat in general. So especially in an American diet. So I think we could just make a good example, Game Changers. I think a lot of people have watched that. Unfortunately, a lot of people have watched that. It is a Netflix-sponsored documentary that has nothing to do with actual health practitioners. And it is just somebody that wanted to go out and make a documentary and research all of these topics and present it to you. And a lot of the things that they use are what I'm talking about. It's just these research that is just kind of like vague. And yeah, we can find something and bastardize it and blow it up and be like, make a huge deal out of it. But at the end of the day, I don't think that there's enough research to say red meat is bad.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
Well, you touched on a lot of really, really good points there. Definitely, like with those research papers that talk about people that consume meat, it's incomplete because we don't know if that person is exercising. Those people that are being tested, are they exercising, or
What else are they eating?
Yeah, or like what else are they eating? And so I've heard about people saying, "Oh, red meat makes my stomach hurt" and stuff like that. I mean, but what else are you not eating that is affecting, your gut bacteria that are supposed to be helping you with digesting the meat? And so definitely having a balanced diet rich in fiber, fruits and vegetables, along with the meat will definitely help the consumption of the meat, because meat has vitamins and minerals that other fruits do not have. Like magnesium, zinc, iron, vitamin B6. I mean, B6 is in our other ones,
But are very bioavailable.
but they're bioavailable. They're easy for your body to absorb. Some plants don't have those vitamins and minerals, but they're not that bioavailable. And so, yeah, it's a hard topic, but
I'm gonna keep you on that what you just said, because then I think a lot of people will read this stuff, like the research that says red meat is bad, and then completely make a transition to vegetarian or vegan.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to ask, like, kind of going off of this, why, if you're eating, like, let's say tofu versus red meat, what are some of the benefits that red meat would have for you that tofu does not?
Iron, magnesium, zinc, vitamin B6.
Right, and the bioavailability of
And
those things
bioavailability
as
of
well.
those things.
And so the bioavailability for those at home is, let's say that tofu, which they don't, by the way, but let's say that tofu and red meat had the exact same micronutrient profile. So everything that Jose just said, the magnesium, the vitamin B6, the iron, all of those things, let's say that tofu also had them. In red meat, because it's not a processed food, you're going to be able to absorb those nutrients easier and more efficiently. So maybe you can absorb 85% of them versus
30.
75 or 30 with the tofu. So even if they had the same exact micronutrient profiles, you would still get more benefits.
So basically, it's almost like a non-negotiable, man. Like, I think, well, first of all, meat in general is a non-negotiable.
I've met some people that very, very rarely would I say, like, if you're a person that has tried everything and you still have issues with red meat, because there are some people that do have issues with red meat, but for the most part, it's probably something else that's going on.
Yeah. It's just that there's so many variables that go into your health, from genetics to what you've been eating your whole entire life and, your lifestyle. So you can't just go off of what a documentary said and be like, okay, I shouldn't eat that.
Mm-hmm.
No, if you haven't had any problem with it before, then why are you stopping? One of the parts of that documentary that got, like, I was like, oh, I just want to grab all these people and choke them. They said in the documentary, they were like, protein does not give you energy. And then they just stop and then move on to the next scene. And I was like, well, duh, protein is not for energy. Protein is for recovery. But for a person that doesn't understand those things, if the documentary says protein doesn't have any energy, doesn't give you energy, you're gonna be like, oh shit, nope. What am I gonna have protein for?
What do I need this
What
for?
would I need this for?
Yeah. One of my biggest pet peeves with that documentary, and this is kind of going off topic, but is what they were trying to, or at least it seemed to me, what they were trying to portray is that if you became a plant-based athlete, that you would be at the top of the game.
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah. Because
And
they
they
give a
gave
bunch of
us-
examples.
They
right?
give the example of
They
the,
give you
of the
examples.
gorilla and the elephant.
I had
And
and they give you examples of athletes. They give you some examples of, like, some strongman and, like,
There's
some
a
other-
fighter, too, that, is it
I don't know who it is.
There's an
Oh, it's
MMA
Nate
dude.
Diaz.
Nate
It's
Diaz,
Nate
there
Diaz.
you go.
But again, Nate Diaz is he's a great fighter. I would not consider him the best fighter ever. Another thing, Nate Diaz, I love you if you're watching this.
Oh, yeah, he's definitely.
You're an awesome fighter. You're a great fighter. I love the Stockton slap. Keep doing that. But none of the other athletes I had ever heard of before. None of the other athletes that they used as examples I had ever heard of before, and by no means at the top of their field.
There was a
So-
strongman there that I've never heard before.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, you're presenting to me that if I become plant-based and I'm just gonna skyrocket to the top of the list, like, no, that's not what's gonna happen, guys. That's not what's gonna happen. If there is a plant-based athlete that is at the top of their game, it's not because they're plant-based.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot more to
A
it.
lot more to it.
There's a lot more to it.
Man, I love shitting on Game Changers.
Yeah.
So fun. All right. Before we start getting more hate and people emailing us, hate mail, let's move on. Question number 9. Is there any head/neck exercises that I can do to make my jawline more sharp looking?
I love this. This is so funny.
I'm not answering this one.
Okay, I guess I'll answer because it was for my
All right.
it was for my Instagram. If you want to make your jawline sharper, I would say number 1, just lift in general is going to build you a thicker neck, because you have to create tension throughout your entire body to be able to perform compound lifts. That's number 1. Through having your thicker neck, also when you clench to lift, develops your muscles a little bit more.
So chew
But-
on some gum.
Chew on mastic gum, whatever that is. But
Put a
number
piece of
1
plastic
thing,
in your mouth.
besides weightlifting, and this is the answer for literally everything. Weight train, lose body fat, and your jaw is already there, bro. Like it's a bone. There's not much else that can happen to it.
If you don't have much of a jaw.
Yeah, if you don't have much of a jaw below the fat, there's not a lot that's gonna come out.
Yeah, there's a lot of anatomy here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like how the bone structure is ultimately going to play a way bigger role than the muscles.
Yeah.
So like you can get more definition, absolutely, especially if you're like super high in body fat. Like who knows? Maybe you do have a crazy looking jawline and you just don't know it. But
You know what would help?
do
Build
some-
your neck up a little.
Yeah,
bit.
Build your
you
neck,
can,
for sure.
You can do some neck curls.
Yeah.
yeah, yep.
It
and
does
yeah.
make you look like more like thick here, and
Yeah.
it does make your jawline look sharp. Because bro, I have a really round face,
Yeah.
and like ever since I built my neck up from Olympic lifting, you know what I mean? It does look a little bit better.
Yeah, I think neck training is relatively new in the field. So yeah, it's the same concepts. I think that a lot of people could be intimidated by neck training.
Because they have to wear like that weird. Like,
Yeah,
helmet.
and the iron neck
I
and
remember
all
the-
that. Those
the-
things
you
are
You don't
growing.
even have to wear those things. Like you can just
You
do
don't.
neck curls with your own body weight, like laying down face up on a bench.
No, I want to use that.
No, I know you want to use it, but trust me, do 25 reps with your own body weight. You're gonna have
That's
a
enough,
huge
yeah.
neck pump.
One of the
trust
one of
me.
the things that I tell
Just don't do it
patients-
too fast. Do it nice, slow, and controlled. Okay.
It's a neck curls with you.
Yeah.
God damn it.
Oh my god.
This is
I
getting.
tried
Next
my-
question.
I
Next
tried my
question.
best, man.
Hold on, hold
Next
on. Before we move on, if you follow us, you know what cars are. So I'm just gonna say this really quickly. One of the things that I give people a lot, not necessarily because I've gotten this specific question, but people that have neck pain is doing neck cars, prone, side lying, supine on your bed. You don't need any equipment, like Jose said, and that will start building up some neck muscles.
I know the person that asked this is not gonna know what that means. Maybe he will, but if you need to send videos of what that looks like, just DM me and I got you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Besides getting a sharp jawline, one more thing, last thing. If you suffer from a lot of headaches, or let's say you suffer from migraines, or a lot of tightness in your neck, strengthen your neck,
Even in your shoulders.
even in your shoulders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if those same things that you said, shoulder, upper back,
Yep.
neck training.
Even some like neck cards while holding kettlebells.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
All right.
Cool.
Ah, yes.
Question number 10. That's the one. Is that the one that you wanted to answer the most? That with your agenda.
Yes,
I'm just kidding.
I do have an agenda with this. It's fine. It's fine.
What?
But
Question number
I think a
10.
lot of people need to hear this one.
What supplements are worth the money and which ones are not?
Okay. So,
Please, Mr. Agenda.
Mr. Jen, I wanna start this off by first saying what supplementation should be, because I think
Yeah.
that a lot of people don't understand the word. The definition of the word is a supplement, meaning an addition to what you should already be trying to accomplish with your regular diet, which should be through food, which is accomplishing, hitting your macros, your micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, all of those things. So if your diet does not sufficiently cover all of those things, then you could start looking into supplementation. So with everything that we're going to say, if you could do these things without taking the supplement, it would ultimately be the best. Now, I'm going to say one supplement that is going to be just impossible to do this with, creatine.
Mm-hmm.
So creatine is one supplement that I think everybody and their mother should be taking. There are certain people, very, very few people,
Non-responders.
that not non-responders, but that have a little bit of a digestive issue when they start taking creatine. Could also look into other things why they could be having those digestive issues. But again, I've very, very rarely ran into that issue where they have some digestive issues.
I would just say
from
that's
creatine.
also an indicator that something else is wrong.
Yeah, most likely.
Yeah, there's thousands of articles, research papers done on creatine, and
It's probably it's the most studied.
most of them have been
supplement
positive.
Ever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, the reason why it's super hard to get creatine through Whole Foods is because the only food that significantly has any amount of creatine is red meat. And you would have to eat like a pound of it per day to get sufficient creatine.
Which for someone like us is not a problem, but for someone at home that's just getting into this.
And even for me, because I don't want to eat a pound of red meat a
Yeah.
day. Like I want to switch up my proteins. So like I might eat that one day.
I'd love to.
I would love to. Like a big ass, just
Pound burger.
T-bone, just big tomahawk kind of
but
steak.
every day, dude. Like
That's hard.
your jaw is gonna hurt. Oh, if you want to grow your jaw, then go ahead and
Going
eat a lot
back
of
to the
steak. Yeah, bro, I swear, because I've done it before, and I'm just like,
100%, dude.
let me switch back to beef.
Dude, I got like 2 years ago for Christmas, one of my clients gave me a huge tomahawk steak, and it
Damn.
was delicious. It was delicious, but it was so big that I felt like it was a workout to eat. It was definitely a workout to eat. I got a pump and everything, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely if you want to train your jawline.
Try your jawline. Get some red meat.
Yeah,
some
start
chewy
getting
red
your
meat.
creatine from red meat only.
My God.
So, by the way, for creatine,
Well, no.
5 grams,
5 grams is
monohydrate.
what they talk about.
monohydrate. Yeah,
monohydrate.
don't waste your money.
Maybe a loading phase of 10 grams for a week if you
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
get the benefits quicker.
But you don't have to.
But you don't have
We
to.
don't have to.
Yeah.
No, you can just
You could just not
cruise it
just
out.
5
Yeah.
grams every day.
Yeah.
It'll take you a little bit longer to actually get the benefits, but again, you're gonna use that creatine over time anyway. And the benefits of creatine are not necessarily day 1 or 2; they're over time. So like if you take creatine for a month and you stop taking creatine, like those benefits are not gonna stick.
Right.
they're also not going to start like the
Right.
moment they put creatine into
Exactly.
your tongue.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
you'll and if you do take creatine, do not be afraid. You will most likely see 2 to 5 pound increase. That's normal. Water retention happens with creatine. Absolutely normal.
Isn't it because so isn't it that the water that was already being stored is now being stored inside the cell as opposed to outside?
Well, you're gonna retain. So creatine, to my understanding, he can probably answer this better,
Yeah.
but it increases your ATP storage in your muscles, which is adenosine triphosphate.
Mhm.
And in your muscles, they're gonna want to have like some type of homeostasis with ATP, which is gonna require more water to hold the ATP. Is that correct, or is that
That's correct.
okay?
You didn't need me for this.
Okay.
So but why does that? So
So-
how does that answer the question?
It doesn't answer the question.
Doesn't-
What I'm
yeah,
saying
it's
is,
just-
for
yeah.
people that do start taking creatine, it is normal to see a slight increase in weight due to water retention. The water retention happens because of that scientific thing that I just said that people don't care about.
Mhm.
But it's basically the more ATP that you have, the more water that you're going to need to hold because you need water to hold ATP.
Mhm.
So another supplement that I think is very useful for people, talking about the same thing that we were just talking about, is protein, or protein powder. I use protein because it's hard for me to hit my protein intake most days. So I end up using a protein powder. However, if you could get all of your protein intake from Whole Foods, that is a way better option. It's just hard.
But you want to give the people the reason why the Whole Foods is better than the powder?
One of the big reasons we already went over, which is the bioavailability.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a processed food, any processed food, it doesn't have to be a protein powder, but a protein powder falls underneath that processed food categorization. You won't get, like, let's say that the serving per scoop is 30 grams of protein. You're not going to absorb all of those 30 grams from that scoop of protein. You might get, like we said earlier, not the optimum percentage. So if you're getting 90% of, or 85 to 90% absorption rate from a whole food, that is not going to be the absorption rate from a processed food. I think that that's the biggest benefit.
Yeah.
You want to
Yeah.
add something?
Oh, the other one is protein powder does not have vitamins and minerals.
Yeah,
So,
profile.
Yeah.
Perfect. So let's talk about which ones are not. And this question, so I want to because this question we kind of merged together from a bunch of different questions that were asking kind of the same thing. One of which, and I think this is a big one because I've gotten this question a few times, is do fat burners work? And if so, or if not, why or why not? I want to let one of you guys answer this because
I'm not gonna answer this.
Okay. So fat burners do not work, and the reason why, I mean, no, there's nothing that burns fat.
there's nothing that you can take that
There's
will
nothing
go in
that
there
will
and
go in
start
there.
getting a lighter to your body fat.
Exactly. What happens is it's all.
Are you
Mar- it's-
picturing it?
yeah.
No, I have a client of mine. He's gonna know if he watches this because he says that he whenever he drinks tequila, the burning that he feels in his throat is the fat being burned. He's like, I'm burning the fat, Nick.
All right. Yeah,
Sorry, no.
So-
go ahead, Jose.
So, guys, the only way to lose body fat is to burn more than what you eat, being in a calorie deficit. Okay? It's the only way. Get it through your head. No other way. The fat burners are just a marketing scheme. With the products that are inside the fat burners, they create some kind of like thermogenic effect, so it makes you feel warmer. Okay. Stimulants, and so one of the most popular things that are in the fat burners could be caffeine, could be like some thermogenic aids, like let's say for colocin or plants like that, like little weird herbs that just kind of bump up the temperature of your body. And the caffeine will definitely give you more energy, and so if you have more energy, you have more of a you want to exercise more, and you can go harder on your workout. And so since you're going harder on your workout and you're exercising more, then
You might also be more fidgety.
you be more fidgety. Yeah, you're just exercising, burning more calories. But if you overeat, all those calories that you burned are gonna be replaced by all the calories that you overate. So at the end of the day, you won't burn any body fat.
So I was what clicked in my head when I heard about the fidgety is NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which is basically the movements that you do subconsciously. So you see how I'm speaking to the camera now and I'm moving my hand right here? This burns calories, and you add all these little movements throughout the day, and eventually it adds up to a decent amount. And as you decrease your calories, your NEAT tends to decrease too. Some things that you may ingest may increase your NEAT temporarily and make you move more, but then again, eat those 100, 200, 300 calories back, and it's like...
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So another reason.
I would also argue that you can do that with caffeine.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You absolutely can. And I want to address what Jose said, because Jose said fat burners don't work. Sometimes fat burners will make you lose weight. Now let's talk about why that happens. Okay, because then some people will take fat burners and they'll lose weight and they'll be like, "Hey, Jose, you're wrong. Fat burners do work."
Come at me. Just
Right.
DM me and come at me. We'll discuss it.
Damn.
So, the reason that you might you might be more likely to lose some weight if you take a fat burner. Now, this might not happen because if your habits are terrible with eating food and you're overeating constantly, doesn't matter what fat burner you take, you're still gonna gain or maintain or not lose.
Mm-hmm.
Caffeine, all of these things, all these stimulants tend to suppress hunger a little bit as well. So they might make it easier for a person to get into a caloric deficit without having hunger the entire day. However, it all comes down again to caloric deficit or not. Are you ingesting less than what you are expending? Period. It does not matter what brand, unless you're doing the what is it that people do? What's that steroid?
Clenbuterol.
Clenbuterol. That is the only one that I will say. If you take that, you'll definitely.
But that's not a supplement. That's a medication.
Hormone. Yeah, that's
medication.
way. That's not something. That you want to be
you need a
taking.
prescription to buy that legally.
Yeah. So, fat burners, because that's not a fat burner. Because I was just using that as an example of how extreme you would need to go for something to actually be like, okay, this is 100% going to make me burn body fat. And that doesn't even necessarily make you burn body fat. Again, it's kind of the same thing. You need to be in a caloric deficit. So fat burners do not burn body fat. Fat burners decrease your hunger and increase your energy levels, which could set you up, if you have good habits, to lose body fat. But they do not burn body fat.
Mm-hmm.
Period. All right.
Perfect.
So the other, just to finish this question off, the other part of this question was which supplements should you not be wasting your money on. So we already talked about fat burners. Definitely don't waste your money on that. Okay, like Nick said, you could probably just do the same thing with coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Another one,
yeah.
I would say, branched chain amino acids.
BCAAs.
Yeah. If you're already consuming enough protein, you are consuming enough branched chain amino acids, so you don't need to add more.
Yeah. And if you're not consuming enough protein, don't add BCAAs just to get the benefits from BCAAs.
Add more protein.
Add more protein.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we'll go back to like the research thing that we were talking
And
about.
for the audience to understand this, branched chain amino acids are the main components of protein. So protein is made of branched chain amino acids.
Yeah, that's exactly what protein is.
That's what protein is.
Yeah, it's different profiles of branched chain amino acids.
Mhm.
You can have a complete protein, which means that you have all of the essential branched chain amino acids, or you can have an incomplete protein, which most plant-based protein sources are incomplete proteins, by the way, which is why red meat is so good. And not just red meat, because it's a complete protein. So yeah, protein, like if you were to get a scoop of protein and compare it to a scoop of branched chain amino acids, the scoop of protein has more branched chain amino acids than the branched chain amino acids, and it's cheaper. So there you go.
Like your protein powder already has branched chain amino acids, so
yeah.
you don't need to buy a separate supplement of branched chain amino acids.
And we're laughing because it's frustrating, right? Because
I did it. I bought it all the time.
Me too.
Yeah.
And it's the marketing. It's obviously these companies that read a research, because what happens is if you take a regular person that's under consuming protein and you give them branched chain amino acids, they will see benefits. They will get more endurance. They will see performance boosts. They will see energy boosts, all of these things. But the reason why they're seeing that is because these are the building blocks of protein. They would see the same exact results if they ate 10 grams more of protein a day, 20 grams more of protein a day.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, test boosters. Why and why not? So, test boosters, usually, again, herbs.
Herbs.
All of these things, like these
like
ashwagandha, all of these things.
Yeah, like all these herbs, they have studies, but they're not the best funded studies, and there's not conclusive research that really says, yes, this does increase your testosterone. Because the thing is that when they do these studies, they make the person exercise, they make the person sleep more. So maybe them exercising more is what really increases their testosterone, or losing body fat really increases their testosterone, or sleeping more increase your testosterone. Yeah. So right now I just told you 3 ways to actually increase your testosterone without using test boosters. Real ways. Proven. Yeah. But if you want to use a supplement, then you can take steroids. That does really increase your testosterone.
Yeah.
That is
if you take testosterone,
exogenically.
Exactly.
If you take testosterone,
then,
you will increase your testosterone. Yeah.
And collagen. I think this is a big one today. Like collagen protein, collagen in general, especially amongst women. It's the same reason why we said no to branched chain amino acids. There's some research that says collagen will give you certain benefits with skin and all of these things, health in general.
But if you eat enough protein, you're gonna get enough collagen production.
Yes, exactly. So it comes back to the same thing. I think there's a pattern here.
Yeah.
Starting to see it.
We're saving you guys money, man.
Yeah, literally.
You know?
We're telling you, don't waste your money on all of these different things. Just buy protein and creatine. That's the only 2 things that I would say that you could even do without the protein. Really, the only thing that you need is the creatine, because it's really hard to get it elsewhere. But, yeah.
Unless you want a big jawline.
Yeah.
You gotta eat
that red meat.
Don't waste your money on supplements. Waste your money on our coaching.
They wouldn't be wasting.
They wouldn't be wasting. That would be an
investing.
investment.
Yes.
An investment. A lifetime
investment. All these,
investment.
I'd say 90% of these questions are on nutrition. I don't know if you guys realized.
Are they?
Yeah. We had like 2 there aren't.
We started off with a bunch of
not really.
Muscle.
Look at it. It was just the number 3.
Powerlifting.
Nutrition. How can I get? Well, I guess gaining weight, but we kind of not talk about nutrition there.
Kettlebell, plyometrics.
Yeah.
I think there's a good mix. But yeah, there's a lot of nutrition stuff. I think it's
give
the people what they want. Give the people what they want.
Yeah. That most people struggle with this part of their fitness journey, which is the nutrition.
Yep.
Because working out is the easy part in my opinion. You just gotta show up and do it, and it's fun. But the nutrition is, you gotta
change habits.
Cook, and you gotta change the habits, and you gotta tell everybody that you're taking care of your nutrition. And people are gonna be asking you why, and why are you doing it? Why don't you want to have fun? YOLO your life, and it's it's a complicated
Renounce
subject.
your culture.
Yeah.
Yeah, but actually
Yeah.
that's a good, like, especially right now we're coming up on Thanksgiving. You know, I think that that's a big thing for
Mhm.
people.
Mhm.
Like, this is not one of our questions, guys, but I think that a lot of people will benefit from this. Is what should you do? Like, if you're on a diet and somebody invites you to Thanksgiving, what should you do? This is what I tell my clients, especially the people that I know that are checking their boxes, right? Going back to that thing about checking your boxes. It's not so much about what you shouldn't do. It's about the things that you should make sure that you're doing. So again, like, I do this myself sometimes. Not sometimes. Every single day, I wake up at 4 a.m, so because I have to be at work at 5. Certain days, I want to get a little bit more sleep, so I sacrifice my breakfast and I have a protein shake. That is not the best thing that you could do, but every now and then, it's not going to matter. And if it, makes you sleep a little bit longer and you feel better about that, then great. If you feel better by being with family, enjoying yourself in Thanksgiving, if you're not getting those benefits and you're too neurotic, because I definitely know some people that I know that are, including myself at some points, way too neurotic. I remember certain years taking my Tupperware to Thanksgiving and not eating any other Thanksgiving food and
Same.
regretting that.
Same. Yeah.
So going back to the question we had earlier about what if I don't get protein enough, or if you eat one meal, but that meal also brought enjoyment, being with family, being present, all of these benefits that you can't get from eating the perfect meal, then I say go for it.
Yeah.
And then the day after Thanksgiving, get back on track.
Yeah.
That's it.
Exactly.
Cool.
Yeah. All right, next one.
Question.
But definitely
Oh,
during the holidays is not the best time to get into a cut.
Yeah. No.
Like, unless you're doing a competition, like if you have a powerlifting meet or you have some kind of like sporting event that you need to be at a certain body weight, then
Or-
you kind of chose that fate. So you're gonna have to really be
Sacrifice.
dude,
sacrificing.
it's-
But if you don't have any of those plans, like today I was speaking to a client and he was like, "Hey Jose, I really want to get into a cut," and I was like, "Dude, like right now holidays will start. It's gonna be very difficult." And so I was like, maybe you should wait until January. Like, enjoy your time. Just stay maintaining. Enjoy your time with your family. Go out to your trips. Have fun with Thanksgiving, Christmas, and all these things. There's gonna be a lot of parties. Like, it's not the best time to do it right now.
Unless your goal is to be the most disciplined person.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
I want willpower. Then maybe.
Yeah, that would be an amazing challenge. But
It's rough because it's like
Yeah.
Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas back to
Yeah,
back.
it's all
And if you have a significant other, there's
right,
Valentine's Day.
Valentine's
coming up
Day,
right around
yeah.
the corner, yeah. And
So-
yeah, my anniversary was just not last month too. So it's just like everything.
Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
mom's birthday is the first week of December. It's just everything.
Yeah.
It's not gonna work.
Yeah. So just wait till January. January 1st, new you.
New year, new you. New Year's
new you,
resolution.
and you're motivated, and so that would be like the perfect time.
Just
to
don't stop
start.
training though.
Yeah, don't stop training. Exactly. Keep doing what you're doing.
Go bear mode.
Yeah.
Hibernate.
Um,
All right, let's keep going.
Question number 11. How much salt is too much salt?
It's a very good question, and if you have too much salt, you will have diarrhea, straight up. So that's when you'll know that was too much salt. At once, okay. But if you're a person that just continues to eat a lot of salt, and salt has a lot of sodium, and you don't exercise, it's going to accumulate a lot in your body, and that's not going to be healthy for you. Now, if you are currently exercising a lot and you sweat a lot, then you do have to replenish your sodium intakes, because sodium is used to create ATP, like we were discussing. That's what your body uses for energy. So, yeah, I don't know if you guys
Sodium
want
and
more
potassium,
into
I
it.
think,
Yeah,
are
sodium,
some
potassium,
huge
yeah,
things that-
electrolytes.
Because I think that to answer this question fully, we have to answer like how
Much?
much
How
salt
much?
is too little
Yeah.
salt. Like,
Right.
I think a lot of people go the other way because they hear like, okay, I shouldn't be having sodium, so they switch the scales the whole other way, and they're like, I'm not gonna have any sodium at all.
Mhm.
And you need
You need sodium.
sodium.
Yeah.
You absolutely need sodium. I would say, to answer this question, that big changes in sodium consumption can have a more of an effect on your health and things that are happening in your body, rather than like if you're eating a high amount of sodium, if you compare it to like the recommended daily value that that you see, and if you download an app or if you look it up. I think that it's more so about that. Like if I regularly eat 1,500 milligrams of sodium, and then all of a sudden one day I eat 5,000, I'll see some changes in my body. I'll see some some things happen. But yeah, like
you might just weigh more the next day because you're retaining water.
Exactly.
For ATP.
Yeah, for ATP. Yeah.
So
yeah, sodium's not bad. Sodium is actually necessary.
It's necessary. That's
necessary.
You guys see this? There's salt in here.
Yeah.
Every day.
That post that you made with the
the best pre-workout. I do, and my agüita de coco, papi. My coconut water.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to do that too. The salt pre-workout. There was a period of time where I was taking salt, not as a pre-workout, but with my pre-workout.
In the video, I literally like dumped it on my mouth.
Yeah, but I would also do that and then chug a ton of water. Like, so I would mix that because, again, with sodium, like, what your body wants is a balance. Sodium will make you retain more water. So, like, if you have a ton of sodium and you don't have a ton of water, then there's a problem. If you have a ton of water and you don't have enough sodium, then that can also be problematic. So it's balance. Okay.
Question number 12. What can you do if you get muscle cramps? Have more sodium.
And water.
And potassium.
Yeah. Electrolytes and hydration.
Yeah.
Which... hydration. If you're having like good sources of water and stuff like that, and if you're hydrating yourself,
what's a good source of water?
Something that's not super, not processed, but filtered. Something that's not super filtered. So like, there's a bunch of waters that are like super distilled. So spring water is awesome, especially here in Florida. Actually, like tap water is not too bad. In most places, I don't know where you live if you're listening to this at home, but you want to keep the minerals in your water because you need those minerals. So I think that a lot of companies, a lot of these,
and those minerals are potassium, sodium, magnesium.
Yep. Yeah. These electrolytes that you absolutely need. So yeah, that's a big answer. Another thing, so like muscle cramps. If you're having muscle cramps at rest, this is the answer. If let's say you're training mobility and you get a muscle cramp, then there's a different answer. If you're getting a muscle cramp when you're training mobility, so you have access to new range, you've stretched, and now you're contracting in that range, and you get a cramp, good for you. Good for you. Work through that cramp. That's fine. Completely normal. It's kind of neural pathways being built, new neural pathways being built. Your body doesn't really know how to respond to it, so it responds with a cramp.
Tissues that are contracting in positions that they haven't contracted before, at intensities they have never contracted before in. Not the most. They're not happy.
Yeah. I actually kind of like when my clients get cramps when I start.
I laugh.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, there you go. You're doing it right.
I thought it was just me.
Yeah.
I laugh. And they secretly like it.
Yeah, of course. It's like, yeah, try doing some knee flexion with the hip extended.
Oh my God,
or
man, that's the worst.
The lift offs for the hip flexors.
Get some cramps that way for sure. Guaranteed.
All right.
Question
number 13. What are your thoughts on keto?
This is kind of tied to the, not directly, but like my answer is very similar with this to the fat burner thing. The fat burner answer as to why some people think keto works. Yeah.
Actually, you guys go first because I have a different answer for it.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, like, if you're eating protein, carbs, and fats, and then all of a sudden you take away all the carbs, and you're just eating protein and fat, you're gonna be eating less, so then you lose weight.
I think there's a bunch of things that we need to answer with this question because it's kind of open-ended.
Yeah, it's open-ended because, in terms of like the losing weight, that will be like a pathway as to why. But there's a lot of a lot of people claiming that keto has cured a lot of their diseases or conditions. Even some powerlifters have claimed that they get better performance doing keto. And to me, that's very difficult to believe.
Yep.
Especially for powerlifters, like powerlifters or bodybuilders, like our main source of energy is glycogen, carbohydrates. And so when you eliminate that, it's hard for your body to tap to that easy access, which is carbohydrates are really easy access to tap into so that you can produce energy. it's hard for me to believe that a bodybuilder would perform better without carbs.
Yeah, so let's go a little
Or a
bit deeper into that
powerlifter.
system because I think it's important. So your body has different sources of energy that it can use to help you perform. Like literally what I'm doing right now, my body needs to get some source of energy to move my arms around. The most readily available form of energy is, as Jose was saying, glycogen. It's stored in your muscles, so you literally don't need to go anywhere to get that energy. In ketosis, you have to go through a completely different system to turn fat into glycogen and then into ATP so that you can actually use it. So it's a way longer process, and it just takes up more energy to get there. So I keep saying keto. I think a lot of people also think that it's healthier. I think it's also about, like, again, what are you having? What are you not having? Are you taking away some things that may be irritating to your body, to your gut? You know, some of these processed carbs, because a lot of the carbs that people have are processed, like you were saying, the pasta, like just bowls of pasta.
Yeah, cereal,
all these things. So
ice cream, chocolate, things like this.
If you think that keto is going to help you lose body weight, any fad diet that is restrictive enough will promote caloric deficits.
Yeah.
Same thing if you go vegetarian. If you completely take animal sources away from your diet, now you're left with way more limited choices, so you're likely to eat less. If you can't eat carbohydrates, you're left with way limited choices, so you're likely to eat less. I think the reason why this is dangerous is because a lot of people go into this not understanding how to get those nutrients elsewhere. When they go into these diets. So like if you go vegan and you don't know how to properly structure yourself so you're getting sufficient protein, that's not a good thing. You're not going to be healthier that way. If you go keto because you think that that's going to help you lose weight and you're not getting sufficient energy sources and you're not distributing your, fats and proteins the way that you should be, and you're just like overeating one or the other, again, not a healthy thing to do. So those are my thoughts on keto. Your turn.
At the clinic that I work in with my two business partners now, I work with a chiropractor, Dr. Tito, and I also work with Hearth Healing Medicine. They are both studying to become holistic doctors right now, orthopedic massage therapists. They do consultations for people that are struggling with certain dysfunctions and diseases. And one of the things that they treat a lot is gut dysfunction and how your body can't really process certain nutrients. And they kind of help people heal through that. And one of the processes that they put a lot of their patients and their clients through is a keto. They pretty much just take carbohydrates away. And the reason they gave me that is that that allows the body to heal from the inflammation.
That is true. That is true. There is a lot of carbohydrates that will cause a lot of inflammatory responses in the body. So if you're somebody, and a lot of like people that have autoimmune diseases will do really good on a carnivore style diet.
Shout out Dr. Jordan Peterson.
Yes.
Him and his daughter both cured their own autoimmune disease by literally eating just steak.
Right. But my argument to that is, I think the way that keto is marketed is that it's this like magical thing that if you're in ketosis, this is why these things are happening.
You're only burning fat,
right?
Yeah.
Or
You're
ketosis is just
fat burning 24/7.
Right.
Yeah.
What Nick just said is true. There's a lot of carbohydrate sources, specifically processed carbohydrates, that can have inflammatory responses from the body, your gut, and that's also going to affect your training. It's going to affect your other digestion with other nutrients and things like that. So if you're that type of person, maybe going on a keto diet would be beneficial for you, but you have to educate yourself on why that is, and that doesn't mean that all carbohydrate sources are going to be inflammatory for you.
Right.
Also,
you shouldn't pick it up just because you heard it from someone else or you heard someone else say that it was great. I'm like, okay, then I would do the same. Like Jordan Peterson picked up the carnivore diet because he needed to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also, preface: they don't do that forever. It's
Right.
It's a 4 to 8 week process.
No, and I do see the benefit. Out of all of the fad diets, keto is not the worst.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the worst.
What would you
I just
say is
think
the
that
worst?
I don't want to say. I don't know. I actually don't know.
Tell me and I'll say it.
I don't know. I don't know what I would say. Because, okay, all right, you know what I think is the worst one? Just because I think it's even worse than keto in terms of the way that it's marketed. intermittent fasting.
Whoa, damn.
Not because I think it's bad for people. I'm gonna be very specific about this. I'm talking specifically about the way that it's talked about.
Mm-hmm.
As if intermittent fasting will give you all of these health benefits that I disagree with. Fasting does give you some health benefits, not if you're doing it every day. And also, when you talk about research through fasting that gives you benefits, it's like 24, 48, 72-hour fasts, not 12 hours,
Mm-hmm.
right? So intermittent fasting should be called time-restricted eating. That is my pet peeve with intermittent fasting. Not that it's unhealthy or anything like that. It's just I really don't like that they try to use fasting. Same thing with ketosis. They're using these words that they're trying to like flare them up and like fancy words, throw them at you so that you buy into the
You
diet.
don't even understand what it means, but it sounds cool. So you're like,
Yeah.
let me do that.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
So yeah, I don't have any quarrel with any diet in specific. I just don't like the way that the market portrays them and you know feeds them to the general population.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Are we moving on?
Yep.
Cool. Question number 14 out of 15. We are almost done here, guys. Thoughts on water cut / gut cut for competition prep? Specifically, I'm assuming for competitions that are body weight specific or body weight dependent, like
Mhm.
powerlifters, wrestlers, who else? Olympic lifters.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
I don't know if bodybuilders. I think bodybuilders, pro bodybuilders now have
There's-
a weight limit.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so people that are body weight dependent for their
Yeah.
sport, I believe.
All right.
Mostly.
So, my thoughts on this, if I'm gonna speak my sport, which is powerlifting, that's what I've have the most experience with when it comes to coaching, because I do have experience with the gut cut and the water cut. If you are competing for the first time, you don't need to be gut cutting or water cutting unless like your first time you're about to break a world record or something like that and you really 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 do want that. Okay, if it's your first time powerlifting and you're doing it for fun, it's a competition or whatever, is want the experience, there's no point of doing that. Just sign up, really learn the rules and compete and have fun. Water cuts and gut cuts, do you know what a gut cut is?
No.
So a gut cut, by all means, this is not a prescription of a diet that everybody should do or anybody should do. Okay, like it's gut cut basically means that you reduce the amount of content in your stomach so you can weigh less. And the way that you do that is by eating high calorically dense foods.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's very fun.
Yeah. Like basically you're eating all like carbs that you eat are high sugar carbs. Like
Okay.
Bro, you're
Oreos.
basically eating almonds and Oreos.
Yeah, you're eating like Oreos, you're anything that has like
Super
let's say it's like ice cream, Oreos, cereal, those are the types of carbs you're going to be eating. The fats that you're going to be eating come from also those carbs, but it only is going to come from almonds. Because almonds are very little, but they contain a lot of calories.
Mm-hmm.
Just like an Oreo. Oreo is like very little, but it contains a lot of calories. Like you can easily eat 1,000 calories of Oreos and not be full.
Yeah.
Because they have all these carbs have no fiber.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then the protein only comes from protein powder, which basically weighs nothing.
And liquid.
Yeah, and
Which
liquid.
piss out.
So it
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
flushes.
Yeah. So you do this diet for 3 days before the meet. And let me tell you, like, it really works because the thing is you eat the same amount of calories, but you feel so empty because the foods that you're eating just do not fill you up at all.
There's like a void in you.
Yeah, it's a void.
But
in
you feel satiated,
Yeah.
which is crazy.
Yeah.
I've never done this.
It's a weird feeling. And you wake up super lean. And it doesn't really affect much of your performance because you actually stay eating carbs and you're
Mhm.
still eating your protein. You just weigh less. The water cut, that one can affect your performance because now you're losing on electrolytes, now you're losing water content, which really helps with your performance when you lift. Some people do both at the same time. Like if they really, really need to cut weight, they do both the water cut and the gut cut.
And if you lose a lot of water, you would also lose sodium and potassium.
Right.
And all of these
Electrolytes,
things.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that's not only is it Because, okay, what I'm thinking, I've never had experience with powerlifters doing that, but what I have had experience with is not directly helping somebody do a water cut, but I've had combat athletes that I train that have a coach that when they're going to do their fight, they end up doing not with me, with their
coach.
Skills coach.
Coach,
With
right.
the skills. Yeah.
with their kickboxing or boxing or MMA or whatever coach. With that coach, they do their water cut. But I get to see how their performance suffers
Yeah.
getting close to the fight, especially like those days before, right? It can be, and I've seen it not just with my athletes, but like I've seen it. I'm a huge UFC fan, so I've seen people, almost pass out hitting the scale and having, shaking, having cramps. The reason that you're having cramps, again, is the same reason why we answered earlier. If you're losing a lot of water, you're losing a lot of those electrolytes that are going to end up, making that central nervous system kind of freak out a little bit. There's a lot of science behind that, sodium, potassium pumps, etc., ATP, nervous system stuff.
Nerdy.
Yeah, people aren't going to want to hear that. But, yeah, it's not very healthy. It's not the best. But if you are an athlete and you need to do it, just make sure you do it right.
Yeah.
Just make sure you have somebody helping you that knows what they're doing and isn't going to hurt you.
Yeah. The best situation, if you're going to do these water cuts or gut cuts, you want to be close to the body weight that you're going to be competing in. You don't want to be too far away because then you have to be more extreme, and that's where your performance is going to suffer. So I'm all for it. Just understand that there are some consequences.
There are some organizations, I know One Championship, different than the UFC, but it's also a big organization for combat sports, is now doing hydration tests during weigh-ins. So that kind of limits athletes into what they can do for water cuts and things like that.
Yeah.
Which I think is a good thing, especially if you're a combat athlete. Because if you're a combat athlete, you're putting your life on the line when you're competing, as opposed to like a power lifter. Like, yeah, you might get injured, but like you literally are putting your life on the line when you're a combat athlete the next day after you weigh in.
Yeah.
And even though you might get that water intake back, you still might retain some of those negative effects if you went too far into a water cut. So yeah, be careful. But they can be done. They can be very effective, and they can be done safely. Yeah.
We gotta have him try the gut cut.
Oh yeah.
For 3 days.
He wants to compete
I am gonna, yeah.
next year.
For powerlifting?
Yeah.
during
I'm gonna coach him through it.
around my birthday
Okay.
time.
Okay.
Yeah, May. So look out for that.
All right.
Sick.
Yeah.
Question number
Last
15 out of 15. Last one for the day, guys. This one's actually a pretty cool one. I have reached my nutritional and lifting goals. Now what? How can I be challenged?
I love this one.
This was a good question.
Yeah.
Because I think that a lot of people are going to eventually, if you stick with your training long enough, you will find this several times throughout your training career, where you hit your goals or you didn't hit your goals. Let's say that your goal, powerlifting meet, whatever, bodybuilding competition, any other sport, wedding day, the day passed. What now? This is why I think that well-rounded training is super key, because I think that people are very single-minded when it comes to their goals, whether it's like a strength goal or a composition goal or anything like that. And that's also why I think that having short-term and long-term goals is a key. So that is something that I think your coach can educate you on very well. If you have a good coach, into like what can you work on next. And going back to what Nick loves to say, working on your weakest link. There will always be a weakest link. No matter if you reach your goals, nutritional, lifting, and reaching your goals in terms of nutrition. What does that mean? Does that mean that you reached your weight goal,
Body comp,
or does that mean that like
you can eat more calories now?
eat more calories, right? Like,
And
does
get
it
away
mean
with
that
it.
you are finally at the place where you feel like you can start to stop relying on the tracking so much, be a little bit more intuitive? So like, but again, if you're at any of those points, there's still some things that you could work on. And especially if you're asking this question, like, how can I be challenged? This is a great place to be at. Like, give me more. There's always something that you could work on. It might not be the most fun thing, but like if you're at this place where like you're asking how else can I be challenged? This is a great place to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Personally, to me, man, it just has happened organically. Like, okay, well, I'm to kind of like introspect a little bit here. It's like, well, what do I want now? And I also think that this person should also do this. It's like, ask yourself. I think you can answer that question yourself. Sit down a little bit, write some stuff down, be like, I think this would be nice. Let me try this out.
Yeah. Completely changing things. Yeah.
Nothing to add.
No, because you guys said everything pretty good.
I'll say this.
Especially like if you have a well-rounded program, then you can focus on other things, your weakest link. And I think that's the answer. Just focus on your weakest link if you want to be challenged. So,
and also the best way to reach your goals is to have that well-rounded, is not to just train that one goal.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
You're only as strong as your weakest link.
Yeah, absolutely. I will kind of finish my answer to this question with this. I think that there's been certain points in my life where I've hit points where I think that I have reached my goals. But my goals just change. They don't, like, it's not like I reached them and going back to the training after 40s, like, your goals will change as your lifestyle. Maybe you don't know what you want to do now, but in 1 year, events in your life are going to happen that are going to show you what your goals may need to be.
It's way more of a life thing too, man.
Yeah.
Dude, I in September 24th, it was my 21st birthday. I competed in powerlifting and I deadlifted 545 pounds. 3 weeks later, I was running 3.5 miles.
Exactly.
Because my life just changed that much quickly. I was like, and now I'm up and running, man. I'm like, every freaking Wednesday that the freaking Western Run Club is there, I'm like, I'm there. I'm kind of into this now.
Yeah. There's my gym is doing some mud run thing. I've never done something like that. I want to do it, and I have the time to train right now to do it. So that's something that, like, just taking on something that you never thought that you would will open up doors. Because then you start training something different, and you're like, wow, my endurance sucks. Like, my strength can be great, but my endurance sucks. Get on an assault bike and try to go for 3 straight minutes at a good pace, and you'll find out.
Cannot even begin to tell you how sore I was after that first day of running.
Yeah, I bet.
From 0 to 3.5 miles.
And you train every day.
And I
or
train
at least almost.
Yeah,
every
and
day.
I trained every day. Dude, my butt, my quads, my hand, my calves, couldn't walk. Couldn't get out of my car.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I'm here. I'm this trained guy. He's like, yeah, okay, go run.
Yeah, for me, I personally got back into playing basketball. So, like, I used to do weight training 4 days a week. Now I'm just doing it 2 times a week because I'm spending most of my time working on my skills and practicing and playing. It's just what I want to do now.
Yeah.
But I also don't want to lose what I've gained. So I still do the minimum requirement to maintain, my strength and stuff like that. So
I saw somebody say something like this recently, and actually it was Sal from Mind Pump, which is falling in love with the process is so much more beneficial than just looking forward to your goals. The specific quote that he used was, "A man who loves walking will walk more than a man who loves the destination." So thinking about goals, if your whole goal is to reach your goals, then you will find yourself thinking like, okay, what now? And the best thing that I could suggest for somebody like that is to try to fall in love and understand why reaching your goals makes you happy. Reaching your goals doesn't make you happy because you reach the goal. If anything, this is what happens when you reach your goal. You're like,
what now?
What now? Mm-hmm. So really what brings you happiness is knowing that you put all of that work in and it paid off. But the work, understanding that, like, the reason that this paid off is because I worked my ass off for this. Mm-hmm. So understanding that and falling in love with that journey of fitness will make your goals endless. Because then when you reach one goal, you're like, okay, what? This is the person. This person, you're here. You're here, you just don't know that you're here.
Yeah.
Because if you're asking for more challenge, you're already thinking this way. You're already falling in love with that process. You want more of that process. This is the perfect place to be. All you have to do is just look for something, for another aspect of fitness, health, whatever it is, to train. Mm-hmm. That's it. And you will most likely like it because you're asking for challenge. So, yeah, that's what I would think.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's it for today, guys. Thank you for submitting your questions. We will definitely be doing more of this as time goes on. Please follow us on Instagram. Tag us on the screen, each one of us, and the podcast Instagram as of right now. Look forward to the next episode. Thank you very much, and have a great rest of your day.